Greetings, fellow men. Servus Männer. It's Red Pill Germany again, and today I want to talk to you about the recent events in Germany that unfolded this week. Now, it was just by the end of last year that I said that Germany is currently in a state of metastable equilibrium. In other terms, it is not very stable. By that time, there had not been a new coalition yet. This coalition has formed now, as I told you on this channel. As I expected, this is a very volatile coalition between the Social Democrat, Labour-like SPD, Angela Merkel's CDU, and the Bavarian Conservative Party, CSU. So as my subscribers know, in my home state of Bavaria, Angela Merkel's party does not exist. There is only a sister party, also a party that is centrist conservative, just like Angela Merkel's party used to be, but they form a common faction in our parliament. And so this party was also helping Angela Merkel to implement all their harmful and illegal policies against the German and European people. But just this week there were news reports in Germany that were openly asking if this coalition now is already at its end, roughly 100 days after its formation. There was more than just open speculation about whether or not this coalition will even survive the coming week. Now, what has happened in Germany? To give you the short answer, I think public perception of Angela Merkel's policies has changed gradually over the last almost 3 years since the opening of the borders in 2015. Of course, we had similar problems before, but it intensified. And many Germans now, surveys suggest actually, have changed their opinion about uncontrolled, unvetted, unregulated mass migration. For example, there was a very prominent case recently where a young teenager had been enriched so violently that she is not even alive anymore right now. And I'm not really able to tell you about the details, but even the mainstream media talked about that. Martin Sellner talked about that. Let's just say a young gentleman from far, far away, from an exotic place, came here to Germany, claiming to be younger than he actually is, claiming to have a different name than his actual name, and then he wanted welfare. But he also wanted to sell drugs and have his way with women. And when he actually did that, one of these young girls, a very young teenager, was actually found dead. Then he remigrated with his entire family on his own dime, actually. I wonder how that is possible, to a very far away place also, where he was arrested by the Kurds and is sent back to Germany now, awaiting trial. Now, something was different about this case than the hundreds of cases before that were pretty much like that one. In this case now, even very leftist and even state media outlets were actually asking if this man, who had no right to stay here in Germany, even the authorities told him that he has to go back, should not have been deported. I mean, legally he would have had to be deported, it was just not ever put into action. Maybe it is the straw that broke the camel's back or something, maybe it's just too much repressed frustration with the current system. But cases like that have happened before. There is nothing really special about this case from my point of view, but somehow this case gets treated differently in the media now. Maybe it's just about time. So now we have an official survey, and I'm paraphrasing here. A whopping 86% of Germans think that welfare tourists should actually be deported. 69% of Germans think that we shouldn't give them cash at all, but just things like food and clothes. 62% think that people without passports shouldn't be able to enter Germany at all. And 61% think that we should have special processing centers where we actually process their cases, and only when they are seen as legitimate immigrants or refugees they should be allowed to enter, and if not, they should be deported there right away and not let loose among the general public. So all of these are positions of the AfD, for example, and in all these questions the general German public thinks to a clear majority just like that. So that is the will of the people, according to this poll at least. And now here is the problem for Angela Merkel. As we still live in a representative democracy, every 4 years politicians actually have to care about what the people think. And this poses a problem for Horst Seehofer and his Bavarian CSU party. So he's not only a prominent head of the CSU, he is also the federal minister for the interior. That means migration questions fall under his responsibility. Now I would say that the Bavarian sister party of Merkel's party was actually not very much in favor of Merkel opening the borders in 2015, but they did not let the coalition fail back then. And it was not only me, it was also other people like the blogger Don Alfonso, for example, who said that Seehofer should let the coalition crash and burn over migration questions. Now there is an old and very tight bond between these two parties, and this is why they stayed loyal to Angela Merkel. But now we live in a different country. Now, while the last federal elections in Germany just came soon enough so that Angela Merkel could still manage to be elected chancellor, Horst Seehofer's turn in Bavaria is this fall. And that is not early enough. That is too late for him. Public opinion has already changed, and the AfD, according to recent polls, is gaining momentum in Bavaria. And if his party, in a coalition with Angela Merkel, is not doing anything right now, and especially he, who has the authority as a minister over these things, does not do anything right now, then he will lose a lot of votes in the very conservative southern state of Bavaria. So what he actually wants, for example, is the possibility to turn back people at the border. Something that should be common sense, but Germany is actually not doing that at the moment. If somebody comes in without a passport, without any documentation, he can just come in and then apply for resident status or for asylum status, and he will be processed while he's already in Germany, while he's already getting welfare, while he can already commit crimes here. And every country does that. Without a passport you cannot go in. And he wants to implement this again in Germany, which is a common sense, normal practice. Angela Merkel and her minions and her new clone, by the name of, and I'm not kidding you, Annegret Kramp-Karrenbauer, that we cannot just solve this on a national level, we must find an agreement with the European partners, which just translate into let's not do it at all. And besides, other European nations are doing that already. And while I agree that we of course should defend our European borders together, if someone stands at our border without a passport, hell yeah, we send them back. And the critics of Seehofer now say that he's only doing that because there is an election in Bavaria. Yeah, okay, that might be true, but in a democracy, isn't election season the time when citizens and when people, society in general, should discuss about vital issues? Because you're choosing your representatives for the next term, and you want to know that they will decide in your favor, that they will implement the things that you want to see implemented. So this is just the right time to talk about this. And by the way, I will vote for the AfD in the fall, no matter what Horst Seehofer is doing now. I voted for his party all my life, and I've seen now that Germany is overrun by violent xenoi. So when Seehofer stayed in the coalition and he did not break apart the government in 2015, that was it for me. So I said back then in 2015 that from now on I will not vote for them anymore unless they change profoundly. And they live that change for an extended period of time, for at least 2 terms. So in me, they lost a so far lifelong voter back in 2015. And there are many such as me. And this, with the changed situation in Germany that I've talked about earlier, now puts the coal to Horst Seehofer's feet and puts the CSU under a lot of pressure. On the other hand, the socialists, the social democrats, are still in the coalition with Angela Merkel, and they will of course leave the coalition if Horst Seehofer is doing this now. On the other hand, Seehofer, as I said, will probably lose face and the elections in Bavaria, or at least lose a lot of his power and make the AfD much stronger if he doesn't do anything right now. So these are the centrifugal forces that are driving apart, pulling apart this coalition. And if Seehofer decides to go against Merkel in his responsibility as a minister, Merkel has to fire him. And when she fires a head of the CSU sister party, then this coalition is over no matter what. So me personally, I think that Seehofer will not leave the coalition. I think really that this is just some stage acting now so that he maybe does not lose quite as many voters as otherwise in the fall. But I don't really buy it. I think if he were really convinced about these things, then he would have done that in 2015 already, because he is not as stupid as that. He is a career politician and he should have been, and he was, no doubt, very well informed about the people who were trying to come in here. He knew what was coming. The average German, maybe not so much. Many people in Germany live in blissful ignorance about the affairs and the kind of people who live in other parts of the world. And also after World War II, we were brainwashed and we were actually educated to think that everyone else is better than us. Maybe not better at making cars, but morally. Yeah, they're all peaceful and wonderful people. But now, once again, reality caught up with us and we see for ourselves in our own country what kind of people these are. Germans might be ignorant and stupid, but they're not completely unable to learn. So of course we have these pathological do-gooders and outright communists who want to replace the European population with Africans. But most of the people who were in favor of letting these people in were not like that. There were no bad intentions behind that. Most of these Germans were just very, very blue-pilled people who are maybe well off and who think that maybe because of Christianity, maybe because of humanism, we should share with the people who have less, and if these poor, persecuted, oppressed people, we should help them. They wanted to do something good, and this intrinsically good intention, this intrinsically good character was exploited by these criminal politicians. Now, however, these people have seen the reality for almost 3 years, and they have seen that these people are not poor, persecuted, oppressed people. These people are violent criminals, many of them. And they want at least to vet them and to make sure that in the best scenario, the people who shouldn't be here cannot come in here to begin with. And if we find them here, they should be deported. And this is how the situation has changed now. Back in 2015, if you implied that there are black sheep, haha, among them, you would have been labeled an evil person. Now, nobody thinks that. It's very obvious that there are black sheep and criminals among these people. And of course, I warned Germans before because I traveled the world and I know a little bit about humanity, but most Germans don't know about these things. They're deeply blue-pilled, and this is why they have to learn through experience. And I think many Germans actually have gathered this experience right now. Let's just hope it's not too late. So that is my little heads up for you guys for what's going on in Germany. I'm not sure if the international media or the US media, for example, is treating that at all. I am actually positively surprised to see that perceptions in the general population in Germany have shifted a little bit, and I was also surprised that even the state and mainstream media have treated this topic less one-sidedly and with less communist vitriol. Maybe they're already planning for the day after Angela Merkel, when they will be made accountable for what they have written all these years. And when people realize that not only Merkel but also Merkel's little helpers have blood on their hands. The blood of German children, the blood of the elderly, and of all the other victims of Angela Merkel's illegal, insane policies. I guess now it's time for me to go for a little run. The weather seems good outside, and I hope you also can enjoy your weekend. Catch you guys again later. Servus, Kameraden!